Not ready. We're live. Hello. Hi. So it is February 4th, which means it's Black History Month here in the US. And I never did read those things that I got when I was in the UK. Anyway, since I've already used the African American Tarot and the Orisha Tarot, I had a thought to use them, right? And maybe like we'll learn some Black history too with the figures that are on the cards. Some of the cards have figures, most of them do, but not today. Also, you may have realized I'm using the laptop webcam, the laptop webcam, because, and I don't even think it was like the last time I was live because I feel like I've been live since then. But the last time I was like, I remember being like, oh, I'm going to leave my webcam in a slightly more convenient location, which is not where I usually keep it. So, of course, I'm like, where did they put it? Where did it go? I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. This is where we are. Maybe this is also indicative. Welcome to your 720p reading. Um, and I guess that's oh, okay. Maybe that's the interesting thing between clarity and resolution. And y'all know how much I'm like starting to love Gemini? Like, I can't help it. Like, I don't necessarily have the capacity for boundless, scriptless conversation. But when it comes to like something specific or like interesting, I'm like, okay, yeah. And because so with the 720p versus 1080p, like 1080p is a higher resolution, right? But by and large, for the most part, there's nothing. It's like that resolution in anything that I'm gonna do probably isn't like make or break or not the biggest deal, right? And now like fidelity comes to mind, like high fidelity, low fidelity, but I don't even know guidance and fighting. Fighting was like one of it was already at the bottom, I think. Anyway, fighting guidance. Oh yeah, and on card messages is like there's something. There are very, very, very few, very few people that I feel like resonate with me in a way that she does. And people being people as a person or them as they channel or as they are about their service, however they provide service. There are very few people that resonate and I feel like, and it's in a way, because I was thinking about it today. I watched one of our videos and I'm just like, I've kind of sort of missed this feeling where I feel like I can be kind of like an inferno or like this raging fire sometimes, especially in certain cases, situations, arenas, aspects, ways when it comes to certain things. But I feel like whenever I watch her, there's something about her that like it it's almost like it tempers the fire or it hones the fire, and it doesn't do it in a way. It's almost like fire tempering fire in a way, if that makes sense. Like, because it doesn't douse it like water might, and it doesn't either inflate or suffocate like air might, and it doesn't smother like earth. But it's something that just, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I love it. It's like, yeah, I don't. Anyway, so I dropped some coins today and I picked them up. Oh, yeah. Anyway, What I'm going to do today, I have 6 coins. I have 3 pennies, 2 quarters, and a dime. And I'm going to shake them up. Heads is going to be yang, tails is going to be yin. And I'm going to do all of the copper, or at least they used to be. At some point, they were copper. Now I forget. And I'm going to do all the silvers together. So all the pennies. And then I'll do the 2 quarters and a dime. Oh, that's 3 and 6, right? 3 pennies is 3 cents. 2 quarters and a dime is 60 cents. 63 altogether. 6 plus 3 is 9. Cool, that works. And I want to get one card for both, and then I'll use the SKT Book of Maps to read the I Ching um, hexagram. The trigrams are built from the ground up, from the bottom to the top. I'm going to open this because I didn't think about it. And yeah. Anyway, there's just something, because I feel like there are people that I talk to that give me like clarity in a way. I don't know. There's just something. It's just. It's almost. I would say it's. I don't know. It's fine. I don't gotta get into it. It's just like really special, and I love it. I love it. Let me do this. Oh, I don't want to do that. I can do this. I should just grab my iPad, honestly. There we go. I can do that. All right. So, 6 minutes and nothing. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Not really. I guess I can shuffle this up a little bit more. But that's what I'm going to do today. The other deck, Possibilities, the Two of Fire. Love that. I feel like I never did. Oh, Clarity versus Resolution. Oh, goodness. We're all over the place, aren't we? Clinging to the past. And as I'm looking at it, Possibilities is looking back at clinging to the past, but it's like, so this is how I see it, right? So the eagle is kind of like in the sky, but looking down. And if I just don't cross my arms, this is how it would show you. Like the eagle is flying into that versus flying away from it, but still looking at it. And I guess maybe there's something there of like, it doesn't matter if you are like heading, like if you're moving forward into repeating a cycle that you have gone through before, or if you are in this cycle and sort of leaving it, because as long as you cling to it, you're kind of sort of still in it. Right. So whether it's moving forward but looking back, or it's moving forward into it, it's kind of the same. It's like it is, but it isn't. It's not the same because this way the eagle is out of it. And so it's only in the past, sort of like maybe mentally and emotionally. But physically, it's not in that situation anymore. But with the clinging, it's like it kind of almost, that's when the mind and the heart can override the truth of reality or of one's physical presence. Beyond illusion. Possibilities in reverse, though. Beyond illusion upright. That's 220. I'm just gonna shuffle this. I'm gonna give it a shuffle. Give it a shuffle, 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 shuffle. Celebration and creativity, free of water and Empress energy. 3-3, 220. 3-3 is that eclipse. full moon Virgo lunar eclipse before the solar eclipse in, right? I looked it up. No, 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 no. Because it's a solar eclipse. The 17th is a solar eclipse, which would mean the full moon Virgo happens earlier. So March 3rd would be a new moon? I don't know. It's fine. That's not what this is about. I kind of do want to get into the. Okay, I'm going to ask Gemini because there's something about Gemini traveling, Eight of Fire. There's something about it's. I don't know if it's like the aggregation of information or what, or I don't know. But when it works, it works. And I guess if I Google it, I'd be reading the AI overview up top because I'm not going to necessarily go into a deep dive right now anyway. And it just came to me, so it's not like I necessarily would have had time to go into a deep dive about it before. So 11 minutes of rambling. Love it. Hey, Google, when it comes to images and visual media, what is the difference between clarity and
I can generate and edit high quality images.
I'm still, that's the one thing. She cut me off sometimes. Sometimes she let me like think it out. Sometimes she just cut me off. Hey, hey Google, when it comes to images and visual media, what is the difference between clarity and resolution?
Resolution refers to the total number of pixels in an image, quantity, while clarity describes how sharp, focused, and free of noise those pixels appear, quality. Key differences, feature, resolution, clarity, definition, pixel count, e.g., 1920 by 1080, visual sharpness and contrast, focus, physical detail capacity, perceptual detail, impact, determines how large you can print, determines how crisp the image looks. Resolution is a fixed metric. More pixels generally allow for more potential detail. Clarity depends on lens quality, focus, lighting, and post-processing, like mid-tone contrast. An image can have a high resolution but poor clarity if it is blurry, out of focus, or grainy. Would you like me to explain how to improve the clarity of a low-resolution photo?
Yeah, there was like a table that it was reading, and that's why. Interesting. So it's kind of a quantity versus quality thing. The focus here, so the focus of resolution is in physical detail, or the capacity for physical detail. With clarity, the focus is perceptual detail. Pixel count versus visual sharpness and contrast. Resolution determines how large you can print, while clarity determines how crisp the image is. Okay, I feel like there's something there. Maybe we'll just get into it. I kind of want to take a screenshot. I think I'll be able to bring the conversation back up. So I don't know if that's necessarily reflected here. The dream, traveling the dream, or the dream traveling. I had interesting dreams. I had like 4 or 5 dreams last night, and I saw celebration, holiday, and patience. The celebration is coming. The party people. Oh look, there it is again. Creativity and celebration. Celebrating creativity while you're using AI. It would, like I said, it would have been a Google search. It just made it easier. I know. Fighting inner voice. This is the second time we see fighting. First, it was fighting guidance, and now it's fighting the inner voice. And at first I was like, well, fighting was at the bottom of the deck anyway, but now that we see it with the inner voice, that's interesting. And maybe with like fighting the inner voice, especially when it comes to clarity and resolution, like you can have a high resolution, low clarity image if it's blurry or out of focus. And if something is blurry or out of focus, I almost see, but I can't. I'm working with the third drawer today. And yeah, I'm working with the third drawer today. So I can only use cards in the third drawer, which is why I'm not using the African American tarot. Oh, behind the inner voice is silence, and behind silence is stress. So if there's stress that's causing, if there's stress in the fighting of the inner voice, this makes sense. And what I kind of love about this is in the inner voice, you like see the face, like its eyes are open and you can see the face more plainly. But in silence, it's like you only really see, you can see the outline of the features, but it's like harder to see because it blends into the night sky. With fighting the inner voice and stress being here behind the silence, I'm not surprised to see those all together. Um, anyway, not that that's necessarily where this was intended to go. Also, it's fine. This is where we are. Be here now. And there it is again, fighting the inner voice. I guess I cut right back to it or whatever. Like I put the deck together and then I guess, yeah, now fighting is at the bottom of the deck. What are we fighting now? Beyond illusion. See, the smoky mirror came to mind. The smoky mirror is a card in the mystical shaman oracle cards, and the mystical shaman oracle cards is in the space that it's above the third drawer. So anyway, let me shuffle this and get to it. Oh, the thing about, oh yeah, that's why. Beyond illusion. Okay. With the high resolution, low clarity image, it's almost like there may be like details that even in low clarity environments we can make out. And it's funny because it almost, well, that's discreet. And yeah, I was gonna say it almost plays on that theme of, now discreetness is the word in my head. Distinctness. It plays on the theme of distinctness. The theme of distinctness that came up with the mask and the robot. And it was like, even if like there's like a masquerade ball, if someone has a distinct laugh or there's something very distinct about them, you would be able to recognize them. And in that context, it was like even across the veil, someone is recognized by the divine and recognizes the divine in a very significant sort of way. And that's another thing too that I was like, because I thought of it earlier, because I watched Omicron messages. And I'm kind of like, because there, I feel like, I don't know, there's just like a depth and a richness and like a substance. And it's because I feel like there are a lot of things that I may not necessarily know personally because I just don't. And I feel like some of those things, like I hear other people talk about, and it's not that when other people talk about it, there's no substance, but it's like I don't get that same resonance. And it's just, it like means, it's not that it doesn't mean anything to me when it comes from other people. But there's, again, there's something about, I don't know, that just like, it's like there's a presence and a richness and a depth. And it's like, okay, that like, it's like there's something behind the thing. So I guess for me, it would be like a high clarity, low resolution type thing. Like it's a low resolution type thing because it's like when it comes to pixels, right? Resolution is a count of pixels. I don't have a lot of touch points to certain things, and I definitely don't have any of significance. So it's just like something I hear or whatever, right? Maybe. But so it's like it's already low resolution, but there's like this element of clarity that like really, I don't know, paints the picture. Anyway, yeah, so we first saw distinctness when it came to that. And then there was the whole discreteness, and it was the discreet versus discrete. And then it's fine. But here, that element of distinctness is sort of here again with this resolution versus clarity, right? And so it can be a low clarity situation, but if something is distinct, even if it's fuzzy or blurry, you can still sort of make it out, or you may have a good guess of what it is. But if it's not a high resolution image, or it's like when the resolution is higher with more pixels to work with, even if it's blurry, you kind of get more of an idea of the landscape, and that landscape is important, or it's informative because it we may be able to recognize that like even though this thing is distinct enough for us to know what it is, we can tell it's not an environment or in a situation that we've ever seen it in, and that may be enough for us to not just sort of like make certain assumptions, because it's like when you see a thing, or sometimes when you see a certain thing you associate it with certain things, right? And so it's like in the absence of clarity, our minds will automatically sort of fill in the blanks or do its best guess. And it does that by itself. Sometimes we can intentionally do it, like, oh, like, what's this doing here? Sometimes we can figure it out. Sometimes our brains just pull from all of our experiences. It auto populates what we can't see clearly, and we just sort of like run with it, right? So I guess maybe this plays on the whole clinging to the past with possibilities thing. And then the possibilities in reverse with beyond illusion upright. Maybe there's a point to all of this. And I don't even need to shake the coins. And it's funny because I just saw something about the horn effect. I didn't watch the whole thing. But the horn effect is like the opposite of the halo effect. The halo effect is a name or a person or anything about someone or something where we don't know anything about it, but we have a tendency to just assume the best, right? Maybe someone's name is Jessica, and all of the Jessicas that we've ever met in our lives are like amazing. So even though this is a complete stranger, because her name is Jessica and all the Jessicas we know are amazing, she benefits from the halo effect because she's like, oh well, she's a Jessica, so she has to be amazing. And the opposite is the horn effect. So let's say there's a Jared, and all the Jareds we know are jerks. There's another jerky Jared, and so if we meet a new Jared, we kind of assume the worst. We think that, oh, his that's a Jared, they're going to be a jerk too. That's the horn effect. And I guess the halo and the horns come in again. I guess it comes in again in situations of low clarity. Usually we associate high resolution with high clarity, but that's not necessarily the thing. I mean, I guess I don't have to read a full hexagram, right? Hmm. Anyway, because I was gonna get two, because I would need two trigrams anyway. How am I gonna? Okay, so I'm gonna give this three more shuffles, and I'm not gonna look at the split. And some of these, it feels right to stop there. I'm going to set these here. I'm going to pull off the top and the bottom of the deck. I'll pull for the left one. I want to do resolution and then clarity. Resolution is giving me, and because it's 60 cents, the 2 quarters and a dime, clarity will be the 3 pennies, right? From the top for the quarters and a dime, I'll put on the left. On the bottom, the 3 pennies, I'll put on the right, right? So I'm gonna shake these up. Oh well, just so, like these are ordinary coins. I can't really show you. There you go. I'm just gonna shake them up. Heads is yang, tails is yin. Build it from the bottom. I'm gonna use the SKT Vitruvian Edition. Yang, solid lines, yin, broken lines. Leave space for the womb. That's all. You know. I mean, I guess you don't leave space from the for the room. It kind of emerges from the room anyway. The thing about this being a lower resolution, maybe you don't see me like as I'm. All right. Oh, oh man. There's like this tiny gap. One of the coins flew out. And I'll try to just slide them. The first one is a penny and it was heads in reverse. The second coin is a penny and it's tails. Oh, wait, I'm building from the bottom to the top. The third coin is the dime and its tails. The fourth coin is the quarter and its heads. The fifth coin is the quarter and its heads. The sixth coin is the penny that flew out of my hand. Oh man, I can't find the webcam. I can't find the. Let me look for the penny. If I can't find it, I mean, I guess I'll just have to continue. It sounded like it kind of flew back here. And it also sounded like it hit the carpet. Mm. And the carpet is like this blue color, if you're curious. Almost like a, not necessarily a cobalt. Maybe periwinkle if the periwinkle was like that blue periwinkle and not a purple periwinkle, but a little closer to gray. So it's like obviously blue, but like kind of gray. And I am not seeing this penny. So, oh, it's right here. It is tails. Shout out to Lincoln, I guess. Oh, I don't have the resolution. There may not be enough pixels for you to see Lincoln. Do they even have Lincoln in there? I'm like trying to. Ugh. I'm like trying to hold it up to the light too. There you go. Can you see Lincoln? Can you see him? Can you see him in there somewhere? What year is this? Is that 1999? Doesn't matter. 1993. It's a 1993 penny. That's wild. I was born in 93. Do they put, is Lincoln in there? Yeah, he is in there. Is that even real or is that like a currency myth? Okay. So interesting. On the side of pennies, which is clarity, from the bottom to the top, it's heads, tails, tails. On the side of resolution, which is the dime and the two quarters, from the bottom to the top, it's tails, heads, heads. So it's literally the opposite. They're literally flips. From heads, tails, tails to tails, heads, heads. Top of the deck is totality, the five of fire. Oh, I was there. You go. If you want to read it for yourself, totality. Bottom of the deck is the outsider. And it's funny. This is so funny to me because that's like where you see Lincoln, right? You see Lincoln between the pillars and the monument. Is it the monument or the memorial? The Lincoln, because it's Washington Monument, but it's the Lincoln Memorial, right? Maybe. Maybe. Yes, the Lincoln Memorial. There's like a statue of Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial. And just like the outsider sort of standing between bars, the memorial, well, the statue sits between the pillars of the memorial. So I'm like, oh, interesting image. Okay. So I was trying to hold the penny up to the camera for not no reason. What's interesting here, I feel like this really plays on this is it's interesting for 3232 on the clock. Sorry. It's interesting almost because of that distinctness. It's interesting because of that sort of high resolution, low clarity sort of metaphor. And if there's something that we can recognize as distinct, then our minds will sort of consciously, consciously, subconsciously, it will sort of like auto populate possibilities that the different blurry things in the environment sort of like could be, and it will create the scene around what we sort of recognize, even if what we recognize is kind of a best guess, because again, it's a blurry image. What's interesting about these two is just like we had 3 and 3 before, just like we had 2 and 20, we have 5 and 5, the five of fire and the five of rainbows. What's interesting is, though, totality is with resolution, but with clarity, it's the outsider. This is something outside of totality. And again, like it takes me back to that possibilities and clinging to the past, and then it was possibilities beyond illusion. Now, the trigrams we're working with are so from the bottom to the top, that is open, close, close. And on the other side, it's close, close, open, close, close, open, heads, heads. Wait, no, heads, tails, tails, which is closed, open, open. There is closed, open, open, and open, close, close. Open. They're so obviously different. The words are different enough. Closed, open, open. Yang, yin, yin is the trigram of thunder, according to the SKT Book of Maps. So when it comes to clarity, the outsider, this is the trigram of thunder. And it's interesting because thunder descends from the heavens, right? Now, the trigram of open, closed, closed is the trigram of wind. So when it comes to totality, it is wind. And this is so interesting. This, like, no, because it was, anyway, it's fine. It's interesting that wind is here with totality because wind gives more air, air gives more thoughts, gives the mind everything we can conceive of and perceive of, and everything that we're capable of perceiving, right? Because we can see something, but if we perceive it in a different way, to us, it is the way that we perceive it, not the way that it truly is, right? If you see, yeah. But again, thunder descends from the heavens. So in a way, it's like thunder, even as I'm looking at them on the list, like thunder is above wind. This is where I take an opportunity to remind you to take it as it resonates, when it resonates, if it resonates, and if it don't resonate, don't take it. This is also where I remind you that my Mercury is in Pisces in my 12th house retrograde. I think in metaphors, right? Sometimes I like bring them to earth. Sometimes I just leave the metaphor as it is for your intuition and discernment to interpret as it resonates for you. Right. Especially when it comes to like thunder descending from the heavens, when it comes to the outsider and totality, when it comes to thunder being above the wind. For some reason, when I did that whole like, here's the wind and here's thunder, or like things come from above and they fall as thunder, she's giving the firmament, girl. And I'm like, so like something above the firmament, not necessarily descending from above the firmament, but I work with what I got and we try to make sense of it. This is so, and it's an outsider in a few ways. It's an outsider because it's literally outside, but it's like it's also an outsider because it's, oh, because it's not like, they're not necessarily like playing. Like there's nowhere for another person in this setup to be. So it's almost like there's not even a place for this outsider. You could say there's not a place for this outsider, but it's almost like if there were a fourth person there, that gap wouldn't be there. So in the totality of what we can do with the resolution that we're given, like once they clasp hands, if their knees hold out, they could form a bridge with just the three of them. But it's also giving me, because it's also been coming out, sort of like, well, yeah, it was. Like, this is like giving Tria Prima, right? So, earth being the body, salt, sulfur being the soul, fire, air being the mercury, the mind. And then this would be like water as that element that is also there, but it's not one of the three. Now, with the elemental breakdown here, it's like we're sort of mixing systems, and that's where things get a little Well, no, because I think it's still, I don't know. I'm sure Benabel Wynn has a video somewhere. um, because I know there's like metal, wood, earth, fire, and water. Are those the five? Wood, earth, water, fire, metal. And so already, well, we have fives on the board, but I don't know. I mean, that gives us fire, earth, and maybe wood. Anyway, it's fine, girl. The Outsider is definitely interesting here. See, I could do a whole if I were to. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull a second card. I'm gonna put that card above these because the first is on the bottom. You build it from the bottom to the top. And then I'm gonna read those I Chings. Because I don't want to use these two trigrams to form a hexagram. So with totality, there is courage. And I love this image because this has come out before recently. And that was, I feel like there were multiple things. It couldn't have, it wasn't the fortune cookies. It was the whole thing about like the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves type energy. And it was like rather than someone viewing themselves through the lens of like the challenges, the struggles, the hardships that they faced, and almost sort of like using the fact that that was their experience to define their character. It was the whole like, that same person seeing themselves as the overcomer, the achiever, the one that thrives despite the circumstance, like the flower that blooms in the crack in the sidewalk. And then here's the flower that is growing from the stone. Courage with totality. This doesn't help me. I need more coins. Where's my wallet? I was like, I'm gonna get another card. I don't need a card, I need a trigram. It's fine. The second trigram over here is breakthrough. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Five of rainbows and breakthrough. And it could be the same, the haircut at least is similar-ish, similar enough, right? I feel like on the lowest of keys, if we were living in biblical days and I was pulling these same cards, if we were living in the times of angels being like, don't be afraid, this is very much so. Because again, like breakthrough being on the side of the outsider, which was that whole like something is like descending from the heavens slash like from above the firmament, kind of breaking through. And then on the other side, it's like, have courage. What you see may defy all that you think exists in the totality of your mind. But again, it really feels like it's playing off of the first few cards that we, because there's been this like it was fighting guidance and fighting the inner voice, and there was this internal silence maybe because someone was fighting their guidance and their inner voice, and there was some kind of stress and it was causing things to not be as clear as maybe they would be if that stress wasn't there. But it's also the energy of that whole possibilities and clinging to the past. And then it was possibilities in reverse with beyond illusion upright. Possibilities is in reverse because the thing that is beyond the illusion exists outside of the totality that our resolution provides for. It's almost like we don't have enough pixels to, if resolution is a number of pixels and that controls how large you can print something, it's almost like we don't have enough pixels to print the thing big enough for us to see more clearly the statue between the pillars of. I wonder if, like, with my 1080p, like webcam, if it would be easier to see the statue between the pillars of the memorial. It's also interesting that it's a memorial because one of the recent times I was live, I went looking before and after. Was it before and after, or did Penamue just come out? And Penamue is the angel that remembers and also the angel that forgot in the Angelarium. Well, there are two versions. One version is what hath been wrought across that fiery hilltop, those statues of man whose names the angel forgot. But on the other Penamue card, it was like in death, Penamue marked the graves so that they would be. I forget what it was. It was something like he made them like, I don't know if it was, I forget. And that card is not, it's above the third drawer. So we're working with what we get. And like low hanging fruit slash with a more sort of immediate whatever, like due to recent events, be they in one's personal life, in society, in one's nation, the world at large, maybe there are a lot of stories of like every time things have kind of sort of gone down this way, that came next. And that's kind of sort of the totality that we sort of, it's almost like when we don't know what comes next, sometimes we try to predict. And when we predict, we use the totality of our knowledge and experiences acquired up to that point. What it doesn't account for, or what it can't, at the very least, accurately account for, are the different experiences that we've yet to have. But on the side of clarity is the outsider and breakthrough, which I kind of love for clarity, but it's also kind of dangerous for clarity. It feels like Ace of Swords, Tower card type energy. Like when the truth comes out, type energy is like a truth that has the power to shake one's foundation. But again, courage is with totality. So it's like be brave, be courageous, and see things as they are. This is almost that, like, it's time for some mysterious ways type of, we on like mysterious ways timing almost. Again, this still doesn't necessarily give me an I Ching. Breakthrough is number 11. Courage is number 8. How interesting, though, that we get this 8 and 11 energy. Depending on the tarot deck you use, 8 is strength and 11 is justice. Or 8 is justice and 11 is strength. I feel like I also mentioned that recently. So if we were to flip those, because they are interchangeable, esoterically interchangeable, you could break through totality, which is interesting because like the arms are raised in totality, sort of like the ones of the person. I mean, everyone's arms really are like stretched above their heads, just like in breakthrough. Sorry, I'm doing this because like part of my screen is obscured. So there you go. Like arms raised in breakthrough. Oh, she like broke through those. I didn't even notice that. So breakthrough totality and courage for the outsider. And look, there's some plant thing with a ladybug on. No, that's a lock. See, in real life, see with this low resolution, lower clarity, when it was like here, it was like, oh, it's like this plant thing, and the red thing is a ladybug. Girl, that's why clarity is important. That's a lock on a chain, not a ladybug. But courage is there. And I feel like this is the way, I feel like this is more akin to a way we would usually see these energies, right? Breakthrough totality and courage for the outsider. But that's not the way they came out. And maybe that is an element of time slash timing or maturity, right? It's almost very like there's someone who doesn't necessarily fit in, a child that doesn't necessarily fit in, let's say low hanging fruit. They're more like creative in a place where the creativity isn't really celebrated, right? But they have a support system, and their support system is like, just be courageous, don't give up on your passion. Just know that when you get out of here, when you graduate or get out of school, when you get into the world, you will find those places where creativity is admired, appreciated, celebrated, where creativity is celebrated, right? So that's like that, have courage and be courageous and hold strong now, because your day to break through will come, right? Yeah, yeah, that's just how it was on the table. And I feel like when it comes with totality and breakthrough, because the mirrors or the glass is shattered, literally punched through the glass, it's almost like knowing which walls are for support and which walls are for division. I'm not a carpenter, but again, working with what I got, doing the best with what I got in Gemini. Like a support, it's like if you knock down a support wall, it will cause greater structural harm to your house, because maybe that particular wall supports the roof or a higher floor or something like that. And if you take out that wall, you're taking out the support and it's going to collapse. But a wall that's created for division is like there was this wide open space and we put a wall here to make two different rooms, or to separate these spaces so we can designate one as one thing and the other as the other. And so if you take out a wall that was created purely for division, meaning clearly to separate two different spaces, it does less overall harm. And so the thing with totality and breakthrough, it's almost like if you were to break through something before a foundation had set, or before you knew whether it was a support or a delineator, it's like it could be potentially harmful. And so it's like maybe courage in totality is probing out like where those bounds are. And in the metaphor, courage in totality is like testing to see if a wall is a delineator or a support. And then once you know, okay, like this is just a delineator, this isn't a support wall, then it's like you can break through. right? So just like we did the courage for the outsider and then they break through, this is the breakthrough for totality, but it starts with like courage. Because 8 and 11, especially major arcana 8 and 11, are interchangeable in that specific. That's why I say like esoterically, right? I mean, we still don't have a hexagram, but now I feel less weird about reading these two together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read them together. So I'm going to read, what is this? Thunder over wind and wind over thunder. I'm going to do both of them. But I'm going to read it as wind over thunder first. Wind over thunder, according to the I Ching Book of Maps, is I Ching number 30, I Ching number 42, burgeoning. And then thunder over wind is I Ching number 32, endurance. So we have burgeoning and endurance, 32 and 42. Yep, looks like 32 and 42. Endurance is so interesting because of that courage. And burgeoning is interesting because of the breakthrough, kind of, right? I feel like burgeoning, I don't know, in my mind, it's something like, I don't know why it's like a boil. It's like a boil where the pus is building up and it just like eventually it gets so full it just kind of like pops. But it's like a lanced boil, kind of. So instead of like exploding, it's like it has an outlet, you know, so it doesn't go everywhere. Increase burgeoning on the ascent. This again is wind over thunder. A state of increase and expansion. Opportunities come knocking. In those opportunities, the sage will discern the benevolent from the malevolent and will incorporate the positive into the endeavor and quickly eliminate the negative. When you gain, you must share your gains. If you do not use your means to benefit others, your own end will be ominous. To keep your good fortune, you must give it away freely. Note, however, that your window of opportunity will not be open for long. The time for increase and ascent is now. And then 32. Was that last time I was live or the time before? Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor from Into the Woods. Endurance and perpetuation. This is thunder over wind. The last one was wind over thunder. I'm just like confirming. Yeah, the last one was wind over thunder. Okay. This is thunder over wind. Just making sure they line up. Oop, that was it. Mutual assent when there is alliance. Internally, there must be constant movement. To be in a state of rest is to be in a state of decline and decay. Within you, the sage, you must do a constant state of transformation and change, though your outward demeanor should be one of conviction, firmness, and resolve. That is how you will endure. Seek alliance to ensure longevity and endurance. The establishment and honor of institutions bring perpetuation. I feel like there's a difference between endurance and perpetuation, though. Maybe it's purely connotative or purely through connotation, because I feel like whenever I've heard or used like perpetuating, it's something not great that is kept in motion. And endurance has a more positive kind of, this almost feels like that resourcefulness versus ingenious or innovative. Because when it comes to endurance, it has a positive connotation, but then it's also like usually you don't have to endure something like easy or like great. But does that not also kind of sort of play the whole thing, right? Especially from the perspective of the outsider, but even with the perspective of totality, most are more so with the perspective of the outsider. And the outsider is where clarity lives here. This whole like there's a time of endurance and perpetuation. There's a time of like forming alliances, finding community until you make your breakthrough. But then there's like the time of burgeoning, and it's the time for things to like ascend, or it's the time of the ascent, right? That's where like opportunities come, and you have to distinguish the good from the bad and like quickly eliminate the negative. If you do not use your means to benefit others, your own end will be ominous. I feel like what really contextualizes that is the support that the sage had before, right? Because there was a mutual endurance. That's interesting. Just, it's fine. I mean, because it's like there were certain things that really sort of like got off the ground and that mutual endurance, but it's like survive together, thrive together type of energy. And you could even say that there are some historical contexts of like people who survive together. And then when one subset of those people start to thrive, they kind of sort of pull away. But sometimes, like the ominous end that is met is like as they pull away, there's no, it's just sort of like left suspended. But without that ground, it's like it's not fully where, especially like if it's on the ascent, it's not fully where it's going and it's just discarded its base. And so it plummets. But yeah, cool. Anyway, survive together, thrive together. Always just the like, and there's a difference between like opportunities start to happen, things get busy, someone is quickly like seizing the moment and maybe like not having the same time that they had in the past when it comes to the folks or the whatever that someone survived with. There's a difference between that and like having made it and now again with the perpetuance, now that someone is on the other side of the coin and now that they benefit, they perpetuate while the ones that they survived with, they now force them to endure just like whatever. You know what I mean? And so in a different context, I feel like trying to pull it back to that clinging to the past. It's like if someone knows and believes that there is a different way or better way to do something, right? They're innovative, they're ingenious, they, you know, beyond resourceful, they innovate, whatever. Not, you know, I'm trying not to get lost in the semantics or in the words. And let's say that they're like, they're recognized, but it's like they give themselves over to the money. They sell out, they sell out. And so it's like rather than scaling up and putting into use those ingenious ideas, they kind of sort of just like fall into the status quo now that, because again, the thing with that, the coin of resourceful and innovative or ingenious, is the ingenuity was born out of lack. But now that there's no lack, or when things change to the point that there is no lack, then it's like there's no need to be ingenious because now there's ample resources and opportunities. And so it's almost this, it's like outside of a person, outside of individuals, there are these like principles, things, ideas, right? Like just how they say that certain ideas float the collective, in terms of like there are scientists all over the world who have had very similar, if not the same, breakthrough at roughly the same time. So it's almost that energy. Like the idea comes to the person who is capable of grasping it and putting it into the world. But it's like if once they make it, then they kind of sell out, then it's like the idea has to like start all over. And so like largely it's that perpetuance. Largely the thing remains unchanged because every time it like reaches this threshold, it doesn't break through. It's almost like the person walks through the glass, or the person ascends above the glass ceiling, but the idea stops because once the person ascends past the glass ceiling, now they're like living the high life. They've disconnected from their purpose or mission or whatever. That's why it's that whole like, that's, it feels like that's the a potential way the end will be, can become ominous. If you do not use your means to benefit others, your own end will be ominous. And maybe that's just, again, there are communal, universal, divine supports for things progressing, getting better, and stuff like that. But if we change up, then the support is gone or it wanes. And that came out in the whole like abundance being a friend of purpose, right? And so that was a few lives ago now. Like when we're in our purpose, then abundance also finds us. But if for whatever reason, be it an attachment to the lifestyle or an attachment to celebrity, like being known or whatever else, if we become more about that than the purpose, once we make ourselves a stranger to purpose, then abundance will also make itself scarce because abundance accompanies purpose. If you do not benefit others, your own end will be ominous. It just feels like that's that line sort of there. Anyway, let's get a Clayton flip or a Clayton fall for the overall. I mean, and that's one way to, a way that's easier to digest, in my opinion, than something is like breaking through the firmament and descending from the heavens. And it's that be not afraid type energy. But also that whole like be not afraid, like totality and courage. Again, it's that whole clinging to the past, even when faced with future possibility and opportunity. And because we're clinging to the past, we can't see beyond illusion, or we don't see the possibilities that lie beyond the illusion. We only see the ones that are within it, right? When possibilities was in reverse and beyond illusion was upright. All right. I want a clean flipper, clean fall, please. And I'm going to give it a full shuffle. So however many cards, flip or fall. If we need any. I'll give it 3 more. Okay. I did say 3 more. One card fell out on the floor, just like that penny. And it fell face down, just like that penny. It was on tails. The 2 of rainbows, moment to moment. I mean, there's an obvious stepping stones to this moment to moment, right? And it feels like this plays on totality and courage. Each stepping stone is another step outside of the totality that we knew, which simultaneously expands the totality of our knowing until the point where either through force, like a push or breaking out of a shell, or through reflection, we realize that we've broken through whatever was sort of holding us back before. Like this path, this particular gate was locked. Red is the color of the root chakra. There's obviously something there. But this is like in moment to moment, one courageous moment after another, we find ourselves beyond the gate. And maybe because the path we take is so different than the one we saw through the gate, we don't recognize that we are. But sometimes it's a good thing. Bottom of the deck is aloneness, which is number 9. Interesting. What I find intriguing. Oh, I was going to say, like, because this is a hermit type energy, but the light isn't in a lantern. This is an external light. This, it's like it finds the face. Aloneness, conditioning, integration, and control are the bottom 4. Even integrate is fine. Do we gotta go there? Sure. Yeah, because the Fool is behind control. I was gonna say, like, even stuff like ascension and growth and healing and the journey, quote unquote, trademark, copyright, they've become controlled. And it's almost less of an individual experience and more of an almost clinical one. And it's not that it's necessarily wrong by and large, but it's also true that like some people are going to have side effects, right? Some people it's not going to work for. Some people it's going to be amazing. Some people it's going to be not amazing at all. Like through so many different beliefs, they also come with a sort of conditioning of their own. And again, it's like as long as there is a majority alignment, then most people won't experience any issues. But if not, then it feels like there's like its own sort of loop that it creates. Because, especially at this point, how far outside of totality sort of like is that? Like, is it truly outside the gate? Or again, I guess when it comes to like walls of like structural walls versus delineators, because with the delineator, it's almost like it was originally one room. That wall was created for the sole purpose of splitting a larger room. So even if you break through into another room, you're still in the original room, right? Kind of sort of similar with the glass ceiling. You're still in the same building. You've just gone up a floor almost. But, and then that's why I'm like, okay, the fool is behind control. There are other paths outside of the ones that are quote unquote commonly prescribed. Oh, and abundance! Look at that! The fool abandons control, the controlled condition path, and they like fall right into abundance. There you go. Cool. And there are two bodies up here with that whole abundance is a friend of purpose. And so when we abandon purpose, we also, oh, look, that's what I was looking for. Abundance and turning in. When we abandon purpose, we also abandon abundance, especially if purpose was the mutual friend. Well, no. Yeah, purpose, especially if purpose was the mutual friend between us and abundance. Right. And it's like, again, if purpose is our gateway to abundance, pretty much almost every time purpose is going to get abundance in the separation. And if we do get abundance in the separation with purpose, that's kind of sort of where that ominous ends. But sometimes it's like it's not even necessarily like scary. It's just like how it's almost like if someone's life changes suddenly and drastically, like a lottery, right? And so all of a sudden overnight, spending changes, attitude changes, but it's like it's not sustainable. And they kind of sort of like burn through all that they won. And with purpose being abandoned, there are certain things that may make abundance stretch or multiply. And there are other things that cause it to decay, using the language of endurance perpetuation. Anyway, I'm looking for inner voice, which apparently is at the top of the deck. Here it is. Interesting. So with this aloneness card in particular, because I was looking at it before, especialmente, is that how you say especially? I feel like in Spanish you just like add mente to it and becomes li. I mean, in English we add ly. In Spanish you add mente, right? Like usually there's usual and usually, and I guess usual and usualmente, frecuentemente, especialmente, especially. I'm assuming. I've only taken Duolingo Spanish for a little bit. So what I went looking for was silence and inner voice. Because when we saw silence and inner voice before, when it came to stress, like fighting the inner voice, fighting guidance because of the stress that forced silence, it was like it's the same face, but we don't see the light's not there, not here at the very least, to illuminate its feature. So we assume it's not there. In aloneness, it's like you find the light to illuminate the face to see whatever the inner voice reveals clearly, right? This plus this equals this type energy. 9 plus 17 equals 2. Right. So silence is in between abundance and turning in. And then there is silence in between. And then the inner voice is in between suppression and completion, which is 10 and 21. Turning in is the four of water. Abundance, I think, is the king of rainbows. And I love that it's with like completion. Again, like putting that like last puzzle piece in place and the light finding the face to illuminate it. Suppress like this suppression and completion, it gives that five of chalices, the grotesque energy with the thing and the example, the metaphor of the masquerade ball, right? There's someone with a distinct limp or a very distinct laugh. Something about someone distinguishes them even when like they are masked or veiled. And rather than playing into that distinction, again, like with courage in the outsider, they like hide it, right? So you try to hide the limp or you don't laugh or you like do a fake laugh. We suppress. But again, like that's the very thing that makes us distinct and recognizable. But with how completion is put together, it's like with how the puzzle has been put together, there's no room for that piece. Like, where would that piece even go? And so maybe when it comes to suppression, we think, oh, it's an extra piece because the image is complete, rather than going like, oh, like everything is together, but because there's this extra piece, I know that like it's not assembled correctly. And it's that difference between somewhere in there. And I want to say that plays on clarity and resolution in some way. I mean, it does, right? Because the thing about a low clarity, whether it's high resolution or low resolution, the thing about low clarity is when it's blurry, our minds automatically complete the picture using what we can sort of distinguish, right? So, like, let's say that someone navigates using landmarks, and let's say one of the landmarks is a tree, right? And they say, like, even if they're doing the geoguess or whatever, like you show them a random thing and it's blurry, it's like that tree is distinct enough from all other trees that they know. Like, if I see that tree, I know exactly where I am, right? Now, on one hand, let's say there is another tree because the world is wide and large, or let's say the tree is cut down. It's low resolution. How it's like either way, without more clarity, we could potentially, but it's almost like, yeah, because it's a low clarity image. So when we see something that makes us think of the tree, we automatically place everything else in that image because we know. The thing about totality being here, though, is that especially totality in the outsider, there are things that we don't know. And again, for what feels like the 10th at least time, That would be us clinging to the past when potentially faced with a new opportunity. And in clinging to the past, we would not be able to see beyond the illusions that it creates. So that's when we trust our intuition and discernment, especially if our intuition and discernment is telling us that, hey, something's different. Don't assume it's the same because it's not. Or we just consciously put ourselves in a position to, at the very least, experience something different and potentially unlearn something that we've learned or picked up. With the context of inner voice being literally right next to completion, you could also say that the puzzle is much wider than the one that we're completing on the table, right? If this face is the face that we've completed when we added the light to the features, right? Aloneness plus that gives us this. In completion, as we see the puzzle complete, we realize that this piece has to go somewhere. When we break through that totality, we see that the puzzle is a lot bigger. It's like the piece is out here, and that feels like it plays on this moment to moment, courageous moment to moment, stepping outside the bounds of the bars. And it's like unlocking the picture that exists beyond the part of the puzzle that we're working on. So I guess in a way you could say that there was a time where beings, but again, see now this turned into that Enochian Bodhisattvic Elijah energy, where rather than a being, an angel descending from above the firmament, it's someone that ascends. Its ascent was literally the one above, one courageous moment after another, maybe literally stepping stones in the void. And again, with conditioning and see, but I guess because we saw fighting the inner voice and we saw fighting guidance, which made it obviously read one way, but with the context of conditioning and control, if your inner guidance, if your inner voice, if the soul within you is having a certain conversation with the divine or is being led by the divine in a certain way that you don't necessarily see, but you suppress that, you play into the stress and silence your own inner voice because some guru, mentor, some other person that you maybe respect or look up to that you view as more knowledgeable said something about what your intuition is telling you or no one else is saying it. Again, that's what keeps us sort of like circling totality when our intuition, discernment, inner voice is trying to guide us to something outside, different, bigger, better, whatever. Right. And again, that could be new vision, possibilities and new vision. I love that. I love that energy. And it's like these, I don't know. It's like that it's there. It breaks through. It's like if the eagle were to look ahead, you know. Again, low hanging fruit. You could be like, "Oh, I have this really great business idea or an idea for a product," and someone's like, "Oh, if you have an idea, you should go through this one off it. You should go get it patented. not knowing that, you happen to go to the one person that showed up to their shift that day working in the patent office, and they low key take other people's ideas. They tell you that they're going to file your patent. Anyway, possibilities and totality again. See, when we're playing within that, I was like, the colors. Thank you. When we're playing within that totality, we're not hitting the colors of possibility. Possibility brought in the colors of the sky, but not the sky in a blue and white, right? Right, like white clouds on a sunny day. Possibilities in that like indigo black stars, like space, because the sky isn't the limit. The limit exists beyond the sky, but to truly reach the limit, first we must break through the sky, right? Receptivity and abundance, receiving that abundance. Love that energy. That looks like Queen of Water and the King of Rainbows. All right. Let me put the coins back. Should I? Yeah. You know what? Since I'm going to get final cards, I'll give these one last shake. I'll try not to lose them, and I'll put them all together, and we're going to try a hexagram. Okay, and I'll try to just slide them so I don't flip them. We have tails on the bottom. We have tails above that. We have tails above that. We have heads above that. Excuse me. Tails above that. And tails above that. The only yang line and all of this yin is the fourth line from the bottom. Right? So from the bottom, it's the fourth one. So that's open, 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 closed, open, open. Oh, this is going to be a little bit more challenging. Open, open, open. That is earth. Closed, open, open. Is that lake? I don't remember. The easier way would be to just find these. So open, open, open is earth. Closed, open, open is thunder. So thunder over earth, which is I Ching number 16, enthusiasm. Open, 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 closed, open, open. 16 is also the number of the tower. And there was that like Ace of Swords E tower type energy. Enthusiasm and motivation, thunder over earth. Demonstrate enthusiasm. Then those of the spirit realms and earthly realms alike will follow you. Interesting. Honor fellow dignitaries with celebration, and they will honor you. Honor ancestors and your guides, and they will honor you. To be motivated to achieve, you must first be motivated by the energy of life. Action with enthusiasm. Renounce hesitation. Do not let chronic conditions hold you back. Prepare for an advance. Auspicious to take military action. There is an opportunity for growth. So we see opportunity again. Cool. And if you're curious, that was quarter, penny, penny, dime from the bottom to the top. So silver, copper, silver, copper, copper, silver. Oh, I was like, if I pull those apart, because if I pull those apart, those would be different trigrams. It was quarter, penny, quarter, 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 dime. The only line that wasn't all solid was the fourth line. which was a penny, right? So that was tails, heads, tails. So we get this I Ching by thunder over earth. But if I break these down by the coins that came out, that is earth and open, closed, open, earth and water, which is interesting. Anyway, I don't know if that's interesting to you, but oh, receptivity, water, the queen of water, receptivity, cool, love it. And politics, oh, girl, it's the seven of the mind. Oh, suppression is over here. I set suppression aside because I was going to talk about it. It was just like suppressing the inner voice or playing into the suppression of the inner voice to make us, to keep us from realizing that like the puzzle got a lot bigger. There are some games or like apps where it's like a puzzle within a puzzle. And I guess if we're talking about pixels, right? Because you could sort of assume or treat it like every pixel is its own puzzle, but each puzzle is composed of a number of pixels. So it's just like how someone may combine like four different monitors to create a higher resolution singular image, right? Let's say you have like four 720p. There's pixel math in there that because 720 is like, is it 980 by 720? Whatever. But when you use all of those pixels in to process one image, it improves your resolution. And so, because I've seen there's like this app where you do like different puzzles, but each puzzle you create, like each puzzle is a piece of a larger image or a larger puzzle, and then you move those puzzle pieces sort of around. Actually, was that in The Witness? Kinda, sorta. Kinda, sorta. And it's interesting that it's The Witness. The Witness is another card in the Mystical Shaman Oracle cards, like the Smoky Mirror, but it's not in the third drawer. So, ooh, okay, that was quick. I didn't even get a full shuffle there. We got some clean flippers. We have going with the flow, the source, and courage. Oh my gosh. And all of this, what exists outside of totality, also what exists beyond, above the firmament, girl. Going with the flow, and the flow is leading to the source. This also plays into that energy of ascent, because usually, especially when it comes to water, water flows out of a source. So this is literally streaming upstream to find the source of the water. But because it's going with the flow, it's like there's a back current that actually leads towards the source. So if you can fall into that current, it would be a lot easier. You wouldn't have to fight against the flow of the water. And then courage is behind the source. So the source is in between courage and going with the flow. But this isn't an external flow. This is the internal flow that your inner voice and your personal guidance sort of takes you in, that may conflict with the larger conditioning within whatever. The other card that flipped over is the Fool. And again, the Fool fell into that abundance. So you could look at someone going against the grain. You can look at someone swimming upstream and think that they're swimming against the current, but really they just tapped into a different current that flows towards the source. But your inner voice will guide you towards that current. You just got to be courageous enough to be in a lane that maybe a lot of people are, a lane that no one else is in, because courage in the outsider until you break through. And then it's like, oh, it's going to the source. This is also interesting because I am listening to an audiobook series that I love. Again, I'm pretty sure I talked about it. And I just, maybe yesterday, listened to the part where that person exists in a world where in the desert they have these astral spaces. And an astral space is like a different reality. And the gate is the doorway between those two realities. So usually that would be a structural wall and not a delineator. But depending on the size of the frame cut into the structural wall and how the building overall manages its integrity, sometimes you can put a window in a structural wall or even a door in a structural wall because you're not taking the whole wall down. Anyway, in the desert, on the other side of that portal is a watery world. And so the water of the oases flow through those portals. So that's literally the source of water in the desert. And it's like this ring, this ringy portal type. But honestly, it's like you would swim upstream until you cross that threshold. And then you would just like coast downstream. Just like, especially like if you have the courage to make it through the hard part, theirs is easy. Anyway, slowing down at the bottom of the deck, which is the Knight, I believe, of Rainbows. And it's a turtle. It's a turtle that is going from land to water. Is that a turtle or is it a tortoise? She's looking kind of round. And I read, from what I recall, that turtles are flatter, tortoises are more round. And, you know, a flatter shell makes turtles more aquadynamic, hydrodynamic in the water, right? Makes them sleeker. And it is looking kind of thick in the back, looking a little bit more round than streamlined. And I feel like there's almost something there, right? You would see the tortoise heading for the water and think it's a fool because tortoises are land based. It's like with your big old round shell, like you're not very hydrodynamic. Oh, and then look, there's harmony in the water under that. But it's almost like the tortoise's inner guidance tells it to keep going towards the water. Now, an interesting story about turtles and the water that I don't remember fully. I feel like it was, is it Red Elk? No, or Little Elk? Is it David Little Elk? Is that his YouTube channel name? It's like Native American. And it's funny because I looked at that before I went like, anyway, it's fine. There was what, I don't remember if it was the Thunderbird or if it was, anyway, from what I can recall, I can't place the specific origin. There was a being of light in a way you would think of a being of light, and there was a being of like darkness or chaos or something in the way that you would think of a being of darkness, and the being had fled into the ocean, the being of chaos and or darkness had fled into the ocean, and the being of light couldn't go into the ocean because light only penetrates so deep. Beyond that, it's Marianas, Marinara Trench, all spaghetti sauce, right? And it's like you don't want to confuse your kombucha starter with your spaghetti sauce, or maybe some people do. Anyway, it's fine. Because so the being of light couldn't enter the ocean to pursue the being of chaos or darkness or whatever, but she found the turtle. And so she gave the turtle a part of her light so that the turtle could take it to wherever that being of chaos or darkness was in the ocean. Again, probably horribly paraphrasing. Gemini might be able to help me, but I'm not. It's fine. It's like it's given me this, especially with harmony being in the water under that. It's definitely given me that. Who's to say what happens when the tortoise gets in the water? All that matters is the tortoise knows that it's supposed to head to the water. And then maybe when it gets there, its inner voice, its inner guidance tells it, its intuition and discernment says, okay, now go in. And maybe the tortoise is like, but I'm not a turtle. Like my shell, I'm too thick in the back. I'm too thick in the back. I'm not hydrodynamic. I can't be, I ain't no Olympic twig. I'm too thick in the back. Like that one pole vaulting guy. It's fine. And that's the part where like we just have to be courageous. Be courageous. Apparently it's a mixture between creative and courageous. Be courageous. And the tortoise, however it navigates the water, is how it navigates the water. There are no answers here. But I also love this sliver of a moon up there. Cool. Anyway, all right. Also, just like we saw with New Vision, we get sort of like the reds, the oranges, and the blues, rather than just the pure reds, the oranges that possibilities and totality sort of gave us, right? Cool. Take it as it resonates. If it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. Yeah. Interesting. Playing with clarity and resolution. You know what? I kind of want to roll a d20. I rolling a d. Ooh, never mind. Well, that'll take a while. Will it? Sure. This is basically the end of the video. Thank you for stopping by and joining me, I guess. I'm gonna go grab this real quick and I'm gonna spin it. It's gonna take a minute. But this kind of reminds me of a challenge of chalices in the deck dungeon challenges. Ooh. I just looked at this the other day. I got two of these. And why? I don't know. I don't know why I got these two. This is from an era of resources. I've experienced resource. I've yet to experience the abundance that is to come. Is it this one?
I didn't understand that.
Bixby has been extra nosy. And I don't even talk to Bixby no more. Hello? And it's usually it ain't that nosy. Sorry, Bixby. I got this. Let me find the D20 side. Hold up. I'm like, I can't even. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. This is D4, D6, D12. So this is the D20 side. D10, D6, D10, D8, D20. So this is the D20 side. Oh, I can't even show you. Funny, this is almost like a cobalty blue. Yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna spin this twice to see what though. There's an arrow on it. Let me find the arrow. I'm gonna spin it once one way. This is clockwise, and then I'll spin it counterclockwise. And I'll give it just 1, 2, and 1, 2. The first one is going to be for resolution. The second one is going to be for clarity. So 1, 2, resolution. Ooh, resolution is, I see the number 6, but it's on the other side. It's an 11. Okay. Clarity, 1. Oops. That wasn't a good one. 1, 2. There we go. Resolution is an 11 out of 20, which is like 55%. Clarity is 15. 13, sorry. Clarity is, that is so interesting though, because I don't even know if I can show you. So on the thing, it's 11, 6, and 13. Between, so with clarity, it was one to, or with resolution, it was one to the left of 6. And I had to move it so I could see what the number is, and it was 11. With clarity, it was one to the right of 6. Let's see. I'm going to try to hold it steady too. Can you see, kind of? There you go. 11, 6, and 13. And then there's the arrow. You just like follow the arrow. They're like right next to each other. So that's 60% on clarity, 55%. No, 65% on clarity, 55% on resolution. Again, there's that difference of 10. We saw a difference of 10 between I Ching hexagram 42 and I Ching hexagram 32. So it's a little bit more clear. What was I looking for that for? I don't know. As kind of sort of a threshold, maybe. So a DC 11 and a DC 13. As far as DCs go, so that's a like, if you meet it or beat it, that is a 55% chance of success with the resolution and a 65% chance of success with clarity. Is that right? No, I would have to subtract. So 35% with clarity or 45% with resolution, right? Because between 1 and 20, you get 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20 to pass resolution. And then on clarity, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20. So I had to subtract. Which does make it, I don't know. That's why, this is why like I ended the video already. Because this is the part where it's like, what's the point, girl? What are you doing? If that's where the bounds are set, we had 5 plus 8, because 8 was courage. 5 plus 8 is 13. So that passes the resolution check. So we have enough pixels, roughly. There are enough pixels to dedicate to making something adequately large enough. And when it came to clarity, we had 5 plus the 11 of breakthrough, which is 16, which is enough. There are enough pixels and the resolution is clear enough that we should be able to see. whatever is for us to see. And I feel like that's why courage and breakthrough are there. Having the courage to break through. And so it's almost one of those like, you don't need more information. You don't necessarily need more time. Everything you have, you need. It's just time to move forward. You see things clearly enough. And if you want to, you can be resolved enough if you want to like conflate resolution with, you know, like being resolved, like a New Year's resolution. And this was about the moon, going with the flow. We are reaching the end of the year of the wood snake and heading into the year of the horse. We are approaching a new lunar year. Yeah. And it's interesting, I guess, in the context of like the moon. But again, I feel like that was also the whole like fighting guidance and fighting an inner voice. And it's almost like maybe someone's inner voice again is telling like you are resourced enough, you are trained enough, you are prepared enough, you are knowledgeable enough, you are enough to begin. And now it's like someone just has to have the courage to do it. Right? Cool. So, am I going to give this a final spin? Sure, why not? A spin of what though? Nah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I'll do one more. Why not? This thing really spins. 3. What was 3? Celebration and it was that Empress energy. Creativity? 3 is the final card. Celebration and creativity. We saw those threes. In between the fighting, guidance, and clinging to the past with possibilities, there was like celebration and creativity. And then we saw again celebration and creativity. I feel like that's supposed to be like encouraging. Right. I feel like that's supposed to be like nearing a completing one of the puzzles, right? Kind of like nearing the finish line, but the finish line is the start. Just like you got this type of good job type of ending with the 3. And again, the 3 was celebration and creativity. Yeah. I feel like that's also that Empress energy that's kind of sort of been lurking around though. Because at first I feel like she was like, I don't know if she was like fully coming out or if she was just like peeking. And then I remember I talked about the whole peacock reverse mirror thing. Then I found out that one of the peacock people in my life just had a baby. I was like, oh, that's Empress energy. And then it's here again. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need, whoever you need, however you need, even though the however can be questionable sometimes, you need. I hope that whoever, whatever, and whatever you need, you find. And yeah, I'm gonna be on here hopefully this month at some point with that deck, the African American Tarot. Maybe we'll do some light Googling and we'll learn something about someone. And yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That's been this. And this has been that. And that is a fact. All right, I'm done.